Want to welcome back everybody who has been studying with us from previously. I hope you had good holidays. We took a couple weeks off. And also welcome people who are new, who may not have been here previously. To recap or review or explain a little bit about what we do on Saturdays is that we go through the texts that we studied during the week, but in a outline format. We include most of the texts, in this case, all the texts, but not all the purports, because that would just be like a rereading everything that we'd studied, and there would be very little time for discussions. So what we do is we go through the different texts with abridged purports. But this way we focus on Srila Prabhupada's texts and purports as the main source of information. And to recap a little bit about where we are, we're studying now, we're just beginning the conversation between Vidura and Maitreya. A little bit about them. Vidura, we learned earlier in the first canto, is actually Yamaraj, the Lord of Dharma in this universe, incarnated during Krishna's pastimes as the son of Vyasadeva and brother of Dhritarashtra and Pandu. And what happened, we read earlier, was that at the time when the Pandavas were finished with their time in exile and were coming back, they came back to the palace, they requested villages, something to rule over as Kshatriyas, as was their rightful heir. And the Kurus, headed by Duryodhana and Dhritarashtra, refused that kingdom to them. Even Krishna came and sued for peace and tried to negotiate with them, but Duryodhana was adamant. So after this discussion with Krishna, Dhritarashtra called his brother Vidura, who was his counselor, and discussed with him. And Vidura was adamant that you should stop this nonsense with your son. You think he's a good son. He's not a good son. He's being greedy, he's being bad, and he's going to bring down your whole dynasty. While he was speaking like this, Duryodhana appeared on the scene and heard Vidura speaking like that and greatly insulted him and kicked him out of the palace. So prior to the battle of Kurukshetra, Vidura left the palace. Now, fast forward until Krishna's disappearance. We're talking a little more than 40 years later. This is when Vidura met with Uddhava on the banks of the Jamuna. We read that in prior chapters of the third canto. And Uddhava explained to him that just prior to Krishna's finishing his earthly pastimes and ending the dynasty of the Yadus, Uddhava met with Lord Krishna and was instructed by him to go to Badrika Ashram. While Lord Krishna was speaking with Uddhava, Maitreya Rishi happened to come by there and spent time with Krishna and Uddhava at this most intimate time of Krishna's completing his earthly pastimes. Then Uddhava left, and while traveling, he met Uddhava and Vidura met on the banks of the Jamuna, and we read about their conversations between chapters 1 and 4. At the end of that, Uddhava explained that I'm going to Badrik Ashram, following the Lord's orders. You should go to Hardwar and meet Maitreya Rishi. The Lord left instructions with him for you. So this is about where we are, that Vidura has come. He's going to meet Maitreya and begin with their conversations. We might also note, this conversation starts now and continues all the way until the end of the fourth canto. So there's a lot of material here. But now what I'll do is I'll switch over to a PowerPoint presentation that includes all the slides with the texts and purports, and Samapriya will choose various people to read. So give me a second and I'll switch over.
I'd like to welcome everyone back and new people who are here. Happy New Year, everybody. Seisha is joining us and Nanda. These are very senior devotees, and we're very blessed to have their association. So I hope they'll, and also Vajra's there. And I see Amy. I feel like Mr. Raja is seeing everybody. It's really wonderful to see so many people enthused to study the Bhagavatam, because this is our life and soul. But do you want to continue?
Sure. Here we are, Srimad Bhagavatam, January 2022, lessons 1 and 2, which begin with chapter 5, Vidura's talks with Maitreya. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, chapter 5, text 1. Again, we're back to Sukadev Goswami explaining to Maharaj Pariksit. Vidura, the best amongst the Kuru dynasty, who was perfect in devotional service to the Lord, thus reached the source of the celestial Ganges River at Hardwar, where Maitreya, the great fathomless learned sage of the world, was seated. Vidura, who was perfect in gentleness and satisfied in transcendence, inquired from him. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Vidura was already perfect due to his unalloyed devotion to the infallible Lord. The Lord and the living entities are all qualitatively the same by nature, but the Lord is quantitatively much greater than any individual living entity. He is ever infallible, whereas the living entities are prone to fall under the illusory energy. Vidura had already surpassed the fallible nature of the living entity in the conditioned life, due to his being achyuta bhava, or legitimately absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord. This stage of life is called achyuta bhava siddha, or perfection by dint of devotional service. Anyone, therefore, who is absorbed in the devotional service of the Lord is a liberated soul and has all admirable qualities. The learned sage Maitreya was sitting in a solitary place on the banks of the Ganges at Hardwar, and Vidura, who was a perfect devotee of the Lord and possessed all transcendental qualities, approached him for inquiry. Anybody know that verse from Bhagavad Gita that explains how one should approach a spiritual master? Raise your hand, Samapriya, pick.
Vajra, first hand I see. Unmute, Vajra.
Is that Tadvidi Paripratina Pariprashana Sevya?
Yeah, good.
Keep going. And what's the English?
Approach the spiritual master, I guess. I'm not.
Yes.
Anybody
Why?
else help out?
Why do we approach the spiritual master?
You want to learn the truth.
Yeah,
Right.
there you go.
Very nice.
Thank you, Seisha.
And there are specific ways to approach him. Anybody remember what those are? One should inquire submissively and render service. Paripashnena sevaya. So this is how Vidura is approaching Maitreya, with a submissive attitude and wanting to hear from him. Next.
Okay. Manvantara, would you like to read? Nice to see you here again. Hare Krishna, sweetie. Why don't you read this verse?
Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 5, Text 2. Vidura said, O great sage, everyone in this world engages in fruitive activities to attain happiness, but one finds neither satiation nor the mitigation of distress. On the contrary, one is only aggravated by such activities. Please therefore give us directions on how one should live for real happiness. Purport. A common man cannot understand the Lord. He must first know the real position.
Oops.
He must.
Sorry about that.
It's okay. A common man cannot understand the Lord. He must first know the real position of his life under the influence of the illusory energy. In illusion, one thinks he can be happy only by fruitive activities. But what actually happens is that one becomes more and more entangled in a network of action and reaction and does not find any solution to the problem of life. There is a nice song in this connection. Because of a great desire to have all happiness in life, I built this house. But unfortunately, the whole scheme was turned to ashes because the house was unexpectedly set on fire. The law of nature is like that. Everyone tries to become happy by planning in the material world. But the law of nature is so cruel that it sets fire to one's schemes. The fruitive worker is not happy in his schemes, nor is there any satiation of his continuous hankering for happiness.
So I have a question for you. Why is that? Why, if we hear that this material world is such a difficult place to be, why do we continue to pursue it?
I know, it reminds me of gambling. It's just like always expecting the best when you know it's never going to be like that. It's just because everything is so material and we're not connected to the spiritual.
Thank you. Anyone else have something to say about that before we continue on? All right. We'll just go on now with Bhadra. Bhadra ji, could you read the next verse, please?
You need to unmute if you're speaking.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Text 3. O my Lord, great philanthropic souls travel on the earth on behalf of the Supreme Personality of Godhead to show compassion to the fallen souls who are averse to the sense of subordination to the Lord. Purport. All fruitive activity, empirical philosophy, and mysticism are more or less against the sense of subordination to the Lord. And any living entity engaged in such rebellious activity is more or less condemned by the laws of material nature, which work under the subordination of the Lord. Great unalloyed devotees of the Lord are compassionate toward the fallen, and therefore they travel all over the world with the mission of bringing souls back to home, back to Godhead, back to home. Such pure devotees of the Lord carry the message of Godhead in order to deliver the fallen souls, and therefore the common man who is bewildered by the influence of the external energy of the Lord should avail himself of their association.
Thank you, Bhadra. Do you have something to add to that?
Well, Srila Prabhupada is right there, right?
Yes, he's right there. Thank you. That's all we have to know.
Before we continue, I just want to thank everybody that the previous verse was the one that we used to create the forum for this particular topic. And there were some really good ones. Just to kind of overview for those who may not be familiar with the whole process, every week we present 2 lessons online. Along with those lessons, which everybody can read on their own, either online or in the book itself, those are the texts that are to be covered during that particular lesson. We also include a podcast or audio recordings so that people can listen when they're not reading a book or reading online. We also include at the end of each little booklet or lesson, a meditation and forum. I kind of pick out a theme that's dominant in that particular lesson. And the suggestion is that chanting japa, meditating on this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a literary incarnation of God, Nama, Rupa, Guna, Lila, meditating on these topics, and then sharing realizations by writing, because as we've discussed many times with people who have been following this class with us, writing in itself is a form of meditation by which one has to go deeper into a particular topic in order to share it with others. And the more deeper we go on these topics, the better it is for us. And then on Saturdays, we have these Zoom meetings where we review and go over it again. So there are several different aspects to the presentation, and people can take part in one, two, or all of them, or none of them, or whatever they want, but they're there for everybody's attention.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, Seshaji, could you please read for us? Now, let me explain if anyone is not familiar with the glories of Sesha. I'm so honored that he's giving our association. I know him for many years. I mean, you know, I'm not going to say because that'll say how old we both are, but it's really a pleasure, a delight to have you with us. And we look forward to hearing your realizations on Srila Prabhupada's purports. So please read this verse, and you can continue with this slide and the next one, which is part of the same purport.
Thank you. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 5th Chapter, text number 4. Therefore, O great sage, please give me instruction on the transcendental devotional service of the Lord, so that he who is situated in the heart of everyone can be pleased to impart from within knowledge of the absolute truth in terms of the ancient Vedic principles delivered only to those who are purified by the process of devotional service. Purported by Srila Prabhupada. By devotional service only does one's heart become completely purified of all material coverings like karma, jnana, and yoga. Only in such a purified stage does the Lord, who is seated in everyone's heart with the individual soul, give instructions so that the devotee can reach the ultimate destination of going back home, back to Godhead. This is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita 10:10. Tesham satata yuktanam bhajatam. Only when the Lord is satisfied with the devotional service of the devotee does he impart knowledge as he did for Arjuna and Uddhava. The bhakti process, as performed under the regulative principles of Vaidhi Bhakti, or devotional service following the prescribed rules and regulations, is defined by the revealed scriptures and confirmed by great acharyas. This practice can help the neophyte devotee to rise to the stage of Raga Bhakti, in which the Lord responds from within as the Chaitya Guru or the spiritual master as super consciousness. All transcendentalists other than the devotees make no distinction between the individual soul and the super soul because they miscalculate the super consciousness and the individual consciousness to be one and the same. Such miscalculation by the non-devotees makes them unfit to receive any direction from within, and therefore they are bereft of the direct cooperation of the Lord. After many, many births, when such a non-dualist comes to sense that the Lord is worshipable and that the devotee is simultaneously one with and different from the Lord, then only can he surrender unto the Lord, Vasudeva. Pure devotional service begins from that point. The process of understanding the absolute truth adopted by the misguided non-dualists is very difficult, whereas the devotee's way of understanding the absolute truth comes directly from the Lord, who is pleased by devotional service. On behalf of many neophyte devotees, Vidura, at the very first instance, inquired from Maitreya about the path of devotional service by which the Lord, who is seated within the heart, can be pleased.
Thank you, Seshaji. Can you give us some understanding of what Srila Prabhupada is saying this in this purport? He's giving us a clue that pure devotional service begins from that point, the point that he's making about realizing the Lord and the soul to be separate. So can you shed some more light on that?
Well, what I found interesting about this purport and the previous purport, Prabhupada talks about going back home, back to Godhead. Indeed, in the previous verse, he mentions back to Godhead 3 times in a row in the purport, and it appears again in the purport to this verse. So that's the destination. He's made that very clear. And so how you get there is the question that's on the table. He uses the term super consciousness, which is something also rare in Prabhupada's books, as far as my reading goes, using that word, super consciousness. But he's giving a roadmap in these purports. If you want to go back home, back to Godhead, which he sets up clearly as the goal, then you have to give up this idea of being equal with the Lord, or that the Lord has no form, no personality. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is there as a person to assist us in achieving the goal. And if we don't take that assistance, then we're simply harming ourselves. And we can't get the mercy of the Lord, which is what is being offered to us.
Thank you. I wanted to ask one more question. In this particular verse, and we'll see more and more, that there's reference to within the heart. So as opposed to external events, Krishna is revealing himself in the heart through the spiritual master. In the heart, what can you tell me about that? Take the step internal, based on the teachings that we are learning from Srila Prabhupada. But this in the heart is so attractive to me, and so I want to know your view on that. What?
Well, as it's been highlighted on the screen, the heart is the place where raga or feeling becomes activated for the Supreme Lord. Sometimes we hear about Chaita Guru also, which is mentioned, but we might not think it's Chaita Guru as being so much carrying the emotion of love that's available through the heart. And so, to me, what's being offered when we talk about internal here is the joyful, satisfying, personal nature of the journey. It's a journey of the heart. And of course, everyone is hankering for that in this world, we know. Some heartfelt experience, some heartfelt relationship. And they're missing it when they don't take it with the Supreme Personality of Godhead and settle for other things which are devoid of the heart, just gross sense enjoyment, which shuts down the feelings of the heart.
Right. This is a huge topic. Sorry to lay this on you, but it's something that will come up as we delve deeper into the Bhagavatam. It always does come up, and we want it to come up. Let's go on now with Tisha reading. Is that all right, Tisha? Can you read this slide?
Yes, thank you, Mataji.
Okay.
355. O great sage, kindly narrate how the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the independent, desirous Lord of the 3 worlds and the controller of all energies, accepts incarnations and creates the cosmic manifestation with perfectly arranged regulative principles for its maintenance. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. Lord Krishna is the original personality of Godhead from whom the three creative incarnations, namely the Purusha avatars, Karanarvasya Vishnu, Garbhodakshya Vishnu, and Shirodakshya Vishnu, expand. The whole material creation is conducted by the three Purushas in successive stages under the external energy of the Lord, and thus material nature is controlled by him. Thinking material nature to be independent is like seeking milk from the nipple-like bags of the neck of a goat. The Lord is independent and desireless. He does not create the material world for his own satisfaction, as we create our household affairs to fulfill our material desires.
Okay, let's go on with Amy reading this slide, and then we'll talk about both. And I want to hear your realizations of it, both of you. Amy, are you there?
Hare Krishna,
Hare
Samapriya.
Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol, sweetie. Read this slide, can you?
Dandavats to all. Actually, the material world is created for the illusory enjoyment of the conditioned souls who have been against the transcendental service of the Lord since time immemorial. But the material universes are full in themselves. There is no scarcity for maintenance in the material world. Because of their poor fund of knowledge, the materialists are disturbed when there is an apparent increase of population on the earth. Whenever there is a living being on the earth, however, his subsistence is immediately arranged by the Lord. The other species of living entities who far outnumber human society are never disturbed for maintenance. They are never seen dying of starvation. It is only human society that is disturbed about the food situation, and to cover up the real fact of administrative mismanagement, takes shelter in the plea that the population is excessively increasing. If there is any scarcity in the world, it is the scarcity of God consciousness. Otherwise, by the grace of the Lord, there is no scarcity of anything.
Okay, thank you. Tisha, could you, do you have any realizations on either of these two parts of the purport?
I mean, it's fascinating to think because we're so attached, like I, me, mine, and I need this, and I have to have that, and give me, or there's not enough, there's a shortage, especially with COVID. I think so many people were caught up in this idea of there's going to be a shortage, and there's not enough. And having that mentality, I mean, if you just read what Prabhupada said, it's so sensible or something, I mean, it's just sensible to think that the creation is here. Krishna created everything, and he wouldn't not care for everyone and everything. That if it's here, then there's enough. And I just think it's interesting to develop that kind of understanding or faith to really get that. And so thank you. It's helping me kind of learn and expand and calm my own self down, just reading.
Good for you. That's a very important point. We're always fearful that it's not going to be enough. Krishna's not going to give us what we need. We have misconceptions perhaps about what we need. Amy, can you add to that, or?
Sure. I'm checking on. All right, my mic is on. I did have a thought that as I read this section, is that it's the first time I thought through that all the species of life are provided for, and I don't know, that's easy to see. There's a scripture from the Judeo-Christian text that elucidates this about the species of the animals. But coming back to us, so then it really made the point to my mind the very first time that it's the humans that are making a difficulty. That scarcity comes about because of different things that we think and say and do, and lack of faith and knowledge of God.
Right. Very good, Amy. And that's why it's important to hear from a self-realized spiritual master so that he can shed light on these things. Thank you, Amy. And it's really nice to see you here. Let's go on to the next with Nandaji. Would you like to read?
1 second before we go,
Oh,
Nanda. Just
Okay.
want to bring out, I don't want to lose track of the thread of Vidura's questions. He's asking here how the Lord, the controller of all energies, accepts incarnations and creates the cosmic manifestation with perfectly arranged regulative principles for its maintenance. He wants to know the details, how that's happening. Okay, Nanda.
Okay, Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 5th chapter, text number 6. He lies down on his own heart, spread in the form of the sky, and thus placing the whole creation in that space, he expands himself into many living entities, which are manifested as different species of life. He does not have to endeavor for his maintenance, because he is the master of all mystic powers and the proprietor of everything. Thus, he is distinct from the living entities. Purport. The questions regarding creation, maintenance, and destruction, which are mentioned in many parts of Srimad Bhagavatam, are in relation to different millenniums, kalpas, and therefore they are differently described by different authorities when questioned by different students. There is no difference regarding the creative principles and the Lord's control over them, yet there are some differences in the minute details because of different kalpas. The gigantic sky is the material body of the Lord called the Virat Rupa, and all material creations are resting on the sky or the heart of the Lord. Therefore, beginning from the sky, the first material manifestation to the gross vision down to the earth, everything is called Brahman. Sarvam Kalavidam Brahma. There is nothing but the Lord, and he is one without a second. The living entities are the superior energies, whereas matter is the inferior energy. And the combination of these energies bring about the manifestation of this material world, which is the heart of the Lord.
Is that the same one, Patti? Really, I don't. Okay. Before you go on, Nanda, before you go on, whoever is not speaking, can you please turn off your mic? Amy, I think you have perhaps left your mic on because it's hard to hear the other devotees. Thank you. Go on, Nandaji.
Continued. Actually, the material world is created for the illusory enjoyment of the conditioned souls who have been against the transcendental service of the Lord since time immemorial. But the material universes are full in themselves. There is no scarcity for maintenance in the material world. Because of their poor fund of knowledge, the materialists are disturbed when there is an apparent increase of population on the earth. Whenever there is a living being on the earth, however, his subsistence is immediately arranged by the Lord. The other species of living entities, didn't we just read this? Who far outnumber human society are never.
We did. I don't know what he got a little mixed up. Good. At least
It's always good for a review. That's
Sorry
good.
about that.
That's okay.
I think that we were, okay.
Should-
Well, that we read that, so.
Yeah.
Good. Now we're all confused.
No, we're now getting all straightened out.
Okay, good. Okay, now you tell
Sorry
us
about
what was that all about, Nandaji?
Talking about, well, to me, the most important and most interesting part of the purport is the very first sentence, a couple of sentences where, because the creation is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam in numerous places throughout the whole 12 cantos of the Bhagavatam. And especially even between the second canto and the third canto, this creation has already come up in the second canto, again coming up in the third canto. It always seems a little bit different, but here Prabhupada puts it in perspective. It's actually always the same. All the important details are the same, but there's a minor difference because sometimes they describe it according to different kalpas, and there's minute differences in the creational process between the different kalpas. I found that very interesting.
Good. Thank you.
Jai.
Anyone else have something to, that was, when Nanda speaks, it's very delightful. Thank you. But does anyone else have something to add to that about this verse, Pati or Seisha? If not, we can
Well,
go.
I found it interesting that sort of a theme that's run through the verses and purports thus far. In the beginning verses, we heard about aversion to the sense of subordination to the Supreme Lord. And Prabhupada has pretty strong words in the purport there about persons that have this aversion and therefore engage in fruitive activities. He really condemns them. And the purports team can sort of continue that theme, and they explain, well, why were there such strong words? And it's being revealed in each purport, why the thinking of aversion to the Lord by engaging in fruitive activities, it just causes trouble and causes discord and causes fighting and wars, everything that's associated with this scarcity mentality. So you can see, at least I'm seeing, how this idea it's not fanatic to say that people are averse to the subordination of the Lord, and that's bad, because all the bad things come from it, as we're seeing.
Very, very good. Chaita had a question, and then Nanda. Before we go on, also we see that fruitive activities and sense gratification throughout the Bhagavatam and throughout the Bhagavad Gita, these are two real great weapons of the material energy, and they distort our vision and our desire. Thank you, Seshaji. Chaita and then Nanda. Chaita Mai, did you have something?
Hari Bol. Thank you, Mataji. This verse stands out in that it's very poetic. It's such a lovely image that he's lying down on his heart.
Okay.
And his heart is spread out like the sky, and all of creation is resting on that. I was seeing, it's so delightful to just meditate on that image. And I was thinking that some verses are called Upanishadic, in that they give a representation of reality, like the verse in the Ishopanishad that says, he walks, but he does not walk, that kind of thing. But I'm wondering, this verse should be taken literally and not as a symbol. Is that correct?
Nanda, you want to answer that, since your hand is up too? And then Bhaja has something to say.
You're correct. It's not symbolic. It's literal. But understanding the form of the Virat Rupa, that's a huge subject matter also. But yeah, it's not symbolic. That's all I can say there. Can I add my
Yes, please.
In relation to Sesha Prabhu's previous two comments. So the one he just made and the previous one. What I find is that the people who are classified as inimical to the Lord and opposed to his devotional service, we heard about them in the very first verses. Those people are the ones who think that they can be happy through sense gratification. That's a really important realization, to come to understand that sense gratification isn't going to make me happy. It only appears to make me happy for some time, but then it entangles me in the results of those things, and I get more entangled and less happy by sense gratification. And so you see the progression. So if a person thinks they're going to be happy by sense gratification, then they also tend to think that the Lord has no form because there's no God, that he's formless or this or that. And then therefore they're entangled in that whole series of illusion becoming ultimately totally inimical to the Lord. And beginning from the concept of understanding that I've been endeavoring for sense gratification this whole life that I can remember, and hasn't gotten me any full satisfaction or any lasting relationship. That's the beginning of, serious spiritual endeavor. I just wanted to put that in the link of the progression.
Thank you. That's good. Thank you. Bhadra wanted to say something real quick. Bhadraji?
Oh, it's okay.
Okay, because I saw you waving. Okay, before we go on real quick, because we have to go on because here we are. That I particularly liked his own heart spread in the form of the sky. That was just so such a beautiful, even though people who are coming into this heart spread of the Lord are inimical toward him, he has so much love for the living entity that he's creating this whole manifestation for the conditioned soul to satisfy his desires and ultimately learn that he'll only be really satisfied if he tries to awaken his relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So let's go on now with Anita. Anita, would you like to read?
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anita.
Yeah. This purport through Srila Prabhupada Maharaj. And okay, so you may narrate also about the auspicious characteristics of the Lord in his different incarnations for the welfare of the twice born, the cows and the demigods. Our minds are never satisfied completely, although we continuously hear of his transcendental activities. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The Lord appears in this universe in different incarnations like Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, and Narsimha, and he manifests his different transcendental activities for the welfare of twice born, the cows, and the demigods. The Lord is directly concerned with the twice born or civilized man. A civilized man is one who has taken his birth twice. A living entity takes birth in this mundane world due to the union of male and female. A human being is born due to the union of the father and the mother. But a civilized human being has another birth by contact with a spiritual master, who becomes the actual father. The father and mother of the material body are so only in one birth, and in the next birth, the father and the mother may be different couple. But the bona fide spiritual master, as the representative of the Lord, is the eternal father, because the spiritual master has the responsibility to lead the disciple to spiritual salvation or the ultimate goal of life. Therefore, a civilized man must be twice born, otherwise he is no more than the lower animals.
Okay, thank you, Anita. Do you have something quick to say about that? Do you understand the purport?
Yes, I think I'm very, less knowledgeable, but I will try. So I'm thinking, we have to this human life which is very rare to get it, and differentiate between the human and the animal, because the humans, they have the mind and intellect and everything. So they have to use very wisely and gain the knowledge, go to the shelter, take a shelter of the guru and go towards the spiritual path, because that is the ultimate purpose of the life. And yes, that's what I mind.
Good for you. That was very important. Thank you. Let's go on with for the rest of this purport with Gopa. Would you like to read? Gopaji, you there?
Yes.
Okay.
Purport continued. The cow is the most important animal for developing the human body to perfection. The body can be maintained by any kind of foodstuff, but cow's milk is particularly essential for developing the finer tissues of the human brain, so that one can understand the intricacies of transcendental knowledge. A civilized man is expected to live on foodstuffs, comprising fruits, vegetables, grains, sugar, and milk. The bull helps in the agriculture process of producing grain, etc. And thus, in one sense, the bull is the father of humankind, whereas the cow is the mother, for she supplies milk to human society. A civilized man is therefore expected to give all protection to the bulls and cows. The demigods, or the living entities who live in the higher planets, are far superior to human beings. Since they have better arrangements for living conditions, they live far more luxuriously than human beings. Yet, they are all devotees of the Lord. The Lord incarnates in different forms, such as those of a fish, a tortoise, a hog, and a combined lion and man, just to give protection to civilized man, the cow, and the demigods, who are directly responsible for the regulative life of progressive self-realization. The whole system of the material creation is planned so that the conditioned souls may have the opportunity for self-realization. One who takes advantage of such an arrangement is called a demigod or civilized man. The cow is meant to help maintain such a high standard of living.
Wow, that's beautiful. You want to go on reading?
Sure.
Okay.
The Lord's pastimes for the protection of the twice-born civilized man, the cows and the demigods are all transcendental. The human being is inclined to hear good narrations and stories, and therefore there are so many books, magazines, newspapers on the market to satisfy the interests of the developed soul. But the pleasure in such literature, after it is read once, becomes stale, and people do not take any interest in reading such literature repeatedly. In fact, newspapers are read for less than an hour and then thrown in the dustbin as rubbish. The case is similar with the other mundane literatures. But the beauty of transcendental literatures like Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam is that they never become old. They have been read in the world by civilized man for the last 5,000 years, and they have never become old. They are ever fresh in the learned scholars and devotees. And even by daily repetition of the verses of Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam, there is no satiation for devotees like Vidura. Vidura might have heard the pastimes of the Lord many, many times before he met Maitreya, but still he wanted the same narrations to be repeated because he was never satiated by hearing them. That is the transcendental nature of the Lord's glorious pastimes.
You know, when we were reading these verses, my husband and I were discussing, why did Maitreya, Vidura, want to question Maitreya to discuss these things? But actually, if you love Krishna, you want to hear everything about him, his greatness, aside from his intimate pastimes. By hearing anything about the Lord is it's so enlivening. It makes you feel happy. It makes you feel blissful. So it's very interesting to hear how this conversation is progressing. Thank you, Gopa. Did you have something else to say about this?
No, I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, Gopa.
I'm just here.
We're all just here trying to get the mercy. Okay, Vaishnavi, how about you reading, continuing this? I think, did we read the full purport?
Okay, so
Vaishnavi,
Yes, we did.
so Srimad Bhagavatam 3.5.8. The Supreme
Thank
King
you.
of all kings has created different planets and places of habitation where living entities are situated in terms of the modes of nature and work. And he has created their different kings and rulers. Purport. Lord Krishna is the chief king of all kings, and he has created different planets for all kinds of living entities. Even on this planet, there are different places for inhabitation by different types of men. There are places like deserts, icelands, and valleys in mountainous countries, and in each of them, there are different kinds of men born of different modes of nature according to their past deeds. There are people in the Arabian deserts and in the valleys of the Himalayan mountains, and the inhabitants of these two places differ from one another, just as the inhabitants of the Icelands also differ from them. Similarly, there are also different planets. The planets below the earth, down to the Patala planet, are full of various kinds of living beings. No planet is vacant, as wrongly imagined by the modern so-called scientists. In Bhagavad Gita, we find it said by the Lord that that the living entities are sarvagataha, or present in every sphere of life. So there is no doubt that on other planets there are also inhabitants like us, sometimes with greater intelligence and greater opulence. The living conditions for those of greater intelligence are more luxurious than on this earth. There are also planets where no sunlight reaches, and there are living entities who must live there due to their past deeds. All such plans for living conditions are made by the Supreme Lord. Vidura requested Maitreya to describe this for the sake of further enlightenment.
Thank you, Vaishnavi. Shall we go on? Or did you need something? Did you want to add to this, Vaishnavi? Just giving everybody a chance to say something because we haven't met for so long, and this would indicate your meditations.
Oh, you know what, just, you know, it just based on their past deeds, we get accommodations to live in this world, you know, so.
True. Yeah,
That's something.
it's always following us. Sesha, did you want to say something, Prabhu?
Yeah, just not that we want to get on a tangent here, but I was made aware recently by one of the GBC members that there's a foundation, I think it's a private foundation, that's given a $1 million grant to study and bring together religious leaders from different denominations to try to deal with the fact that extraterrestrials are real.
Boy.
Trying to get the religious people of the world to brace their congregations for contact with those that may be outside their religious teachings altogether. Whereas this purport shows that our religious teachings are much broader, with fuller understanding of things, and that which puts us in a good position to take leadership in this preparation for meeting with extraterrestrials.
Okay, that is very interesting. Thank you.
It was a
Sesha.
serious.
It's a serious thing. Oh, Lord Chaitanya, it's all serious. That is something I haven't thought of before. And I'd like to have a discussion with you about that another time. Thank you. Okay, so let's go on with Elizabeth. Would you like to read? And then Madhurya Leela.
Okay. Srimad Bhagavatam 359. O chief amongst the Brahmanas, please also describe how Narayana, the creator of the universe and the self-sufficient Lord, has differently created the natures, activities, forms, features, and names of the different living creatures. Prabhupada Ki Jai. Every living being is under the plan of his natural inclinations in terms of the modes of material nature. His work is manifested in terms of the nature of the three modes. His form and bodily features are designed according to his work, and his name is designed according to to his bodily features. For example, the higher classes of men are white, Shukla, and the lower classes of men are black. This division of white and black in terms of one's white and black duties of life. Pious acts lead one to take birth in a good and high-placed family, to become rich, to become learned, and to acquire beautifully bodily features. Impious acts lead one to become poor by parentage, to be always in want, to become a fool or illiterate, and to acquire ugly bodily features. Vidura requested Maitreya to explain these differences between all living creatures made by Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
Very good. This is an interesting verse. If anyone wants to discuss it, we can. We've all been in many different bodies due to our past activities. Basically, we've been in all of the bodies. We've been in wonderful bodies. We've been in bodies that are sickly. We've been intelligent. We've been princesses. We've been slaves. We have been through it. And here we are in the human form of life. This is the way I see this verse. We're in the human form of life. Somehow or another, due to our great fortune, we have come in contact with Srila Prabhupada and these transcendental books to take us out of this cycle of which all of us have been in since time immemorial. So
another point that I found interesting is that Vidura, as mentioned previously, is an incarnation of Yamaraj. So everyone has a frame of reference by which they look at the world. And he's interested to hear Maitreya's take on how the living entities throughout the universe attain different bodies, different positions, different rulers and followers and everything. That's almost like Yamaraj's universal vision. But yet in this incarnation, he still has that interest and is asking about it from Maitreya, who will describe it in quite lengthy detail about how this all comes about.
Thank you.
I was having a realization because, is it okay to share?
Yes.
Okay, because this text might be, delicate, because, the, racism and things like that, because, sometimes, that becomes a topic of discussion. But I think like with, so how do we understand that, like different skin color and different bodily features, and then we have devotees with different skin colors and different bodily features. So my realization is that when we come to God realization, all of those things don't apply. It's like with with different things that happens like that, like the caste, when Prabhupada was saying, somebody might have a high birth, but if they're not God conscious, then that doesn't mean anything. And if somebody might be born in low class, but he can become a Brahmana if he becomes God conscious. So like that, or when we use like sometimes people think about other things that are auspicious and to have in the house. But if you have Krishna in the house, if you have Guru in the house, if you follow Guru's instructions and Krishna's instructions, then you have all the protection. So like that, stepping on that platform, I think that's how we can understand this verse.
Very good. Excellent. Very good. Amy, did you want to say something?
The question when I studied this past week that I did have was, I thought I understood that Vidura initially said to
Maitreya.
Maitreya. Right, thank you. I thought he initially said, now I've learned all about the science, of how this life works together, and will you talk about Krishna? But in this text, he is clearly asking, tell me about these living entities and everything. So how do you see that?
Well, you give it time. You have to give it some time. Pati,
Okay.
did you want to relate to that? Because we also discussed this.
It's fine.
Unmute, please.
He's connecting everything to Krishna, that he's setting a scene. And of course, this whole universe and everything in it has purpose. So he's inquiring specifically not about the mundane elements of society, but he's questioning with the thread to please weave your explanation of why and how the Lord does this, rather than without the Lord, just getting so absorbed in the different things of the mundane manifestation of it. There's a purpose underlying it all the time. And Vidura wants Maitreya to explain how he and everyone else can see and follow that thread, no matter where it's manifested. And it links back all the way back to one of the Chaturshloki verses, where Lord Krishna explained to Brahma that one should search after the absolute truth under all circumstances, in all places, in all times. So that, bahunam janmanamante jnanavamam prapadyante vasudeva sarvamiti sa mahatma sadurlabha. It's a very rare person that can actually see God in everything. So Vidura is asking Maitreya, how can I do that? How can we do that?
Very good. Thank you. Madhurya Leela, did you have something to say?
Hi, Bob. I maybe I read it wrong, but I thought it said about the dark and white. It's related to the deeds, and not to necessarily to skin color. Didn't it say that?
Well, the point is that what
the dark and
karma
white,
is
black and white is due to your what deeds you do. If they can be black deeds, meaning inappropriate things, or white things are appropriate. That's how I understood it.
Right. Yeah, I'd say that's right. Good. Who did not? I think we're going to go on. I just want to make sure we cover all the verses. If that's, I think you're right.
There's somebody there. Dinanath Chaitanya hasn't read yet.
Yeah, and Faye and Chaitamayi. I was going to have Chaitamayi read, and then we'll go to the rest. Is that okay? And I just wanted to say, Sesha, I need an explanation further about that topic. I didn't mean to cast it aside as unimportant. Please forgive me. I'm interested to understand what exactly that topic is. Contact with living entities and other planetary systems, or bringing together the people on the earth, religious people.
The limitations of a theology that doesn't include anything about living entities from other worlds.
Oh, God, we got it down. Yeah, we better get in there and help them to understand. We have all the information about that. You're right. Let's go on now with Chaitamayi with this next verse.
Haribol. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
Srimad Bhagavatam 3:5-10. O my Lord, I have repeatedly heard about these higher and lower statuses of human society from the mouth of Vyasadeva, and I am quite satiated with all these lesser subject matters and their happiness. They have not satisfied me with the nectar of topics about Krishna. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Because people are very much interested in hearing social and historical presentations, Srila Vyasadeva has compiled many books, such as the Puranas and Mahabharata. The real purpose of such literatures is not so much to present topics of historical references, but to revive the people's sense of God consciousness. For example, Mahabharata is the history of the Battle of Kurukshetra, and common people read it because it is full of topics regarding the social, political, and economic problems of human society. But factually, the most important part of Mahabharata is Bhagavad Gita, which is automatically taught to readers along with the historical narrations of the Battle of Kurukshetra.
Go on reading.
Vidura explained to Maitreya his position of being fully satiated with the knowledge of mundane social and political topics and having no more interest in them. He was anxious to hear transcendental topics regarding Lord Sri Krishna because there were insufficient topics directly concerning Krishna in the Puranas, Mahabharata, etc. He was not satisfied. and wanted to know more about Krishna. Krishna Katha, or topics regarding Krishna, are transcendental, and there is no satiation in hearing such topics. Bhagavad Gita is important on account of its being Krishna Katha, or speeches delivered by Lord Krishna. The story of the Battle of Kurukshetra may be interesting for the mass of people, but to a person like Vidura, who is highly advanced in devotional service, only Krishna Katha and that which is dovetailed with Krishna Katha is interesting. There are two important Krishna Kathas current in the world, Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Gita is Krishna Katha because it is spoken by Krishna, whereas Srimad Bhagavatam is Krishna Katha because it narrates about Krishna. Lord Chaitanya advised all his disciples to preach Krishna Katha all over the world without discrimination, because the transcendental value of Krishna Katha can purify one and all from material contamination.
Thank you. Just before I ask you, Amy, do you see how this related to your question? It's Krishna Katha or topics spoken by Krishna. You see, that's because we were also wondering about why Vidura is choosing to ask about this subject matter, but it does have to do with Krishna. My husband explained that before. So this is kind of an answer to your question. Madhurya, did you have another question? Because your hand seems to be raised cyberspacely. I guess not. Chaita, did you want to say something about this?
Oh, I just really relate to Vidura wanting to get to the crux of the matter, and it's a matter of interest. Because of his advanced consciousness, he knows that the only thing really that's going to make your heart and your mind happy is listening to Krishna Katha. Whereas most of us in the material world, we're so used to reading newspapers and magazines. We're accustomed. This is our habit. This is our conditioning, right, to want to hear about these mundane things. But I was thinking that Vedvyas is so brilliant that he comes up with this wonderful, very worldly, very adventure story of the Mahabharata, and he inserts Krishna Katha into that in the form of Bhagavad Gita. To me, this is brilliant and very compassionate as well.
Thank you. Bhadra, thank you, Chaita, that was beautiful.
Haribol.
Bhadraji?
Chaita, nice to see you. The Vidura, after a long time seeing you, Vidura is part of the Mahabharata.
Oh.
And he's here talking about that he had heard Mahabharata. How is that connected?
It's described that while he was traveling, after he had left the palace, while he was traveling on pilgrimage, he met Vyasadeva, his father, and his father narrated it to him.
Thank you. Thank you.
How long was he on pilgrimage? Dhruva Maharaj, did you say 40 years?
Yes, because he left prior to the Battle of Kurukshetra, and we learned that Yudhisthira reigned as emperor of the world for, I think it was 43 years, and Krishna lasted a little more than, when they left after hearing from Arjuna that Krishna had left the world. Then Yudhisthira and the Pandavas retired timely. So it's somewhere between 35 and 45 years that Vidura had been traveling. And after he meets Maitreya, that's when he'll go back to the palace and preach to his brother, Dhritarashtra, to get out of the palace. You're living like a dog, eating scraps.
Okay, shall we go on to Dinanath and then Faye? You have We will all read, I think. Dinanathji?
Yeah, Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Then Dandath pranams to everybody. All glories to Prabhupada. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.5.11. Who in human society can be satisfied without hearing such sufficient talk of the Lord, whose lotus feet are the sum total of all places of pilgrimage, and who is worshipped by great sages and devotees? Such topics can cut off one's bondage to family affection simply by entering the holes of one's ears. Srila Prabhupada's purport. Krishna Katha is so powerful that simply by entering into a person's ear, it can at once give deliverance from the bondage of family affection. Family affection is an illusory manifestation of the external energy, and it is the only impetus for all mundane activities. As long as there is mundane activity and the mind is absorbed in such engagement, one has to undergo the repetition of birth and death in the current material scenes. People are most influenced by the mode of ignorance, and some are influenced by the passionate mode of material nature. And under the spell of these two modes, a living being is actually actuated by the material conception of life. The mundane qualities do not allow a living entity to understand its real position. The qualities of both ignorance and passion strongly bind one to the illusory bodily conception of the self. Continue. Bhagavad Gita, which is direct Krishna Katha, gives humanity the elementary lesson that the body is perishable and the consciousness which is spread throughout the body is imperishable. The conscious being, the imperishable self, is eternally existent and cannot be killed under any circumstances, even after the dissolution of the body. Anyone who misunderstands this perishable body to be the self and who works for it in the name of sociology, politics, philanthropy, altruism, nationalism, or internationalism under the false plea of the bodily conception of life is certainly a fool and does not know the implications of reality and unreality. Some of them are about the modes of ignorance and passion. Some of them are about the modes of ignorance and passion and are situated in the mode of goodness. But mundane goodness is always contaminated by tinges of ignorance and passion. Krishna Katha is only a remedy for all people of the world because it can situate one in pure consciousness of the self and liberate one from material bondage. To preach Krishna Katha all over the world, as recommended by Lord Chaitanya, is the greatest missionary activity, and all sensible men and women of the world may join in this great movement started by Lord Chaitanya.
Very good. Okay, now we're all ready to do this. This is wonderful. This is a real great Sankirtan purport. Thank you. What do you think about that? Are you doing any preaching yourself? Do you distribute some Krishna consciousness somehow or another?
Yes, I travel within the state and sometimes to Vrindavan and Mayapur to do some menial services and get some mercy of Vaishnavas and Srila Prabhupada disciples. And this last Kartik, I was blessed by her grace, Daivi Shakti Mataji, to be in Vrindavan and serve Srila Prabhupada disciple, his grace, His Holiness, in Goshala, Vishwambar Madhav Maharaj, who is not well, and also in Prabhupada's home, which I dearly love to serve in Vrindavan, and little menial services.
Right. But so I'm sure on your way doing those things, you encountered other people that you must have told them about Krishna, right?
Yeah, definitely. And also I travel within the state in Karnataka where I live, in Bangalore, and devotees invite, and sometimes I travel and share with them how Krishna consciousness is the best gift that Srila Prabhupada has given us. Yeah. And also shortly we'll be starting a village preaching program with help of local devotees in northern Karnataka, a place called Raichur.
Wonderful. Wow.
And last year I was blessed to be part of the ISKCON tribal services by His Holiness Bhakti Purushottam Swami. I was in the tribal place called Purulia, about 10 hours from Howrah, Calcutta.
Oh.
Where it's all the tribals who just come there and enjoy everything. And there's so much practicing, and there are schools for tribal children where we happen to serve. And there, the English is taught as A for Achyuta, B for Balrama, C for Chaitanya, D for Damodara.
Very good.
Versus
Very
A for
good.
apple, B for ball, and C for cat.
Rather, very good. I like that very much. So it's
So-
amazing how Krishna consciousness is being spread all over the world, and everybody in their own way is spreading Krishna
Yes.
consciousness. So that thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, thank you so much.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So Faye, would you like to continue reading? We haven't heard from you yet.
Thank you, Mataji. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.5.12. Your friend, the great sage, Krishna Dwaipanyan. Forgive my pronunciation. Krishna
Vaipayana.
Dvaipayana Vasa
Good.
has already described the transcendental qualities of the Lord in his great work, the Mahabharata. But the whole idea is to draw attention of the mass of the people to Krishna Katha, Bhagavad Gita, through their strong affinity for hearing mundane topics. Purport by Srila Prabhupada. The great sage, Krishna Vaipanya Vyas, is the author of all Vedic literature, of which his works Vedanta Sutra, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Mahabharata are very popular readings. As stated in the Bhagavatam 1.4.25, Srila Vyasadeva compiled the Mahabharata for the less intelligent class of men who take more interest in mundane topics than the philosophy of life. The Vedanta Sutra was compiled for persons already above the mundane topics, who might already have tasted the bitterness of so-called happiness of mundane affairs. The first aphorism of Vedanta Sutra is Tato Brahma
Jigyasya.
Jignasya. It est only when one has finished the business of mundane inquiries in the marketplace of sense gratification can one make relevant inquiries regarding Brahman, the transcendence. The great author has compiled the Mahabharata in such a way that the less intelligent class of men who are more interested in mundane topics may read the Mahabharata with great relish, and in the course of such mundane happiness can also take advantage of Bhagavad Gita, the preliminary study of Srimad Bhagavatam, or the Vedanta Sutra.
Okay. What about that one? In this very purport, only when one has finished business of mundane inquiries in the marketplace of sense gratification can one make relevant inquiries regarding Brahman, the transcendence. What do you think about that, Faye?
May I make an example?
Sure.
A quick example. You can butt your head against the wall as many times as you wish. The wall is still there. You will get a headache. If you repeatedly butt your head so many times that you finally gain the grace of sensibility and step back and say, why am I doing this? Who am I? What am I? Why am I here? Who do I serve? Why am I here? Once you're ready and fully satiated, fully disgusted with the fact that you are not in control and you can't get anywhere, nor can you save yourself from the ocean of nescience, then you're ready to listen. Once you're ready to listen, you can begin to hear. And once that can permeate your ears and reach your heart, then, as Sesha Dasa was saying, when that heart opens up to receptivity then you can get that essence, that wonderful thing. You can start to hear, to love, to serve, to grow. But you've got to get disgusted by banging your head a lot first.
Perfect. Perfect. Thank you, sweetie. That was great. I'm going to
Thank you,
quote you on
Mataji.
that one. Okay. How, Manvantara, would you like to read another one? Would you like to read this one?
Text
there?
13.
There you go.
For one who is anxious to engage constantly in hearing such topics, Krishna Katha gradually increases his indifference towards all other things. Such constant remembrance of the lotus feet of Lord Krishna by the devotee who has achieved transcendental bliss vanquishes all his miseries without delay. Purport. When a sincere devotee reads Bhagavad Gita, this is as good as seeing the Lord face to face in his personal presence. But this is not so for the mundane wranglers. All the potencies of the Lord are there when one reads Bhagavad Gita, provided it is read in the way recommended in the Gita by the Lord himself. One cannot foolishly manufacture an interpretation of Bhagavad Gita and still bring about transcendental benefit. Anyone who tries to squeeze some artificial meaning or interpretation from the Bhagavad Gita for an ulterior motive is not Shraddhana Pumsha. One engaged anxiously in bona fide hearing of Krishna Katha. Such a person cannot derive any benefit from reading Bhagavad Gita. However, a scholar he may be in the estimation of a layman. The Shraddhana or faithful devotee can actually derive all the benefits of Bhagavad Gita because by the omnipotency of the Lord, he achieves the transcendental bliss, which vanquishes attachment and nullifies all concomitant material miseries. Only the devotee, by his factual experience, can understand the import of this verse spoken by Vidura.
This verse happens to be one of the most magnificent verses of the Bhagavatam. What can you tell me about this perfect verse, Mamantaraji? What does this what does this make you feel? I mean,
well,
what do you
yeah,
think about it?
The only thing I kind of received from it is I just thought it was amazing when I read it that to see Krishna face to face in the Bhagavatam or in the Bhagavad Gita, and I was reading it and I was like, wow. And I was reading it in front of my deities. So when I was reading it, I was like, Govinda Jai, how do you, that's how I have to see it. But yeah, it's just like, because Krishna is not different from his name. So it was.
Or
it was
his
very
words or
enlightening
the
to see
Bhagavatam.
this. Or his
Very
words,
good.
yeah.
But the verse itself, for one who is anxious to engage constantly in hearing such topics, Krishna Katha gradually increases his indifference toward all other things. That's what we want. We don't want to be plagued by the anxieties and distress of this world. We want transcendental bliss, which that's what the soul wants. So this is a very wonderful, encouraging verse, I think. Thank you, Manvantara. And I think it's beautiful that you read it in front of your deities. That's perfect. Thank you. Seshaji, would you like to read this? We're getting toward the end here. Can you read this verse for us, these verses?
Yes. Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, 5th chapter, text 14 and 15. O sage, persons who, because of their sinful activities, are averse to the topics of transcendence and thus ignorant of the purpose of the Mahabharata, Bhagavad Gita, are pitied by the pitiable. I also pity them because I see how their duration of life is spoiled by external time, by eternal time, while they involve themselves and presentations of philosophical speculation, theoretical ultimate goals of life, and different modes of ritual. O Maitreya, O friend of the distressed, the glories of the Supreme Lord can alone do good for people all over the world. Therefore, just as bees collect honey from flowers, kindly describe the essence of all topics, the topics of the Lord. Report by Srila Prabhupada. There are many topics for different persons and different modes of material nature, but the essential topics are those in relationship with the Supreme Lord. Unfortunately, materially affected conditioned souls are all more or less averse to the topics of the Supreme Lord because some of them do not believe in the existence of God, and some of them believe only in the impersonal feature of the Lord. In both cases, there is nothing for them to say of God. Both the non-believers and the impersonalists deny the essence of all topics. Therefore, they engage in topics of relativity in various ways, either in sense gratification or in material and mental speculation. For the pure devotees like Vidura, the topics of both the mundaners and the mental speculators are useless in all respects. Thus, Vidura requests Maitreya to talk of the essence only, the talks of Krishna and nothing else.
Wow, that's a perfect verse also. What can you add to that for us? Help us understand that more deeply.
Well, again, I mentioned it before, how these purports. So in this,
sorry.
Okay, no problem. In this verse also, we get the sense of a definitive statement being made that there are no other benefits to be gained from mental speculation, from impersonalistic understandings, material activities. There's nothing there now. I've explained, Prabhupada says in his purpose, basically paraphrased, I've explained this patiently and gone through this so that you can understand. But let me tell you clearly, and there's a line drawn in the sand, there is nothing to be gained outside of the topics of the Lord. And the more we accept that, the quality of our decision to accept that will open up the relishable nature of those topics to us. So how many lifetimes are we going to go fooling around? Let's just do it.
Right, let's just do it. The essence only, we won't only talk to Krishna. Can we be brave enough amongst each other to say, okay, that's it. I've had it with everything else. We've all the different things. Don't worry. We just want direct passage. We just want to talk about Krishna and how everything has to do with Krishna. Otherwise, let's not talk about it. Let's make it. Let's do that. We're getting too old. We're almost out of here. We have to do it.
And thank you for creating a forum to do that.
Hare Krishna. Well, we have one more. Thank you, Sesha. We're delighted that you're here. We have one more verse. How about Nanda Ji? Are you still there? Let's give her a chance to come back. Nanda?
Yes, I'm here.
Oh, my darling. Please read this last verse for us.
But Madhurya Leela didn't read yet. You want her to
She
read?
didn't want to read. Madhurya, do you want to read? She said she didn't want to read.
Okay, so no problem.
It's not that I don't want to, but I can't right now. Thanks.
Okay.
Well, she can't. Okay. Thank you.
5th chapter, 16th verse. Kindly chant all those superhuman transcendental activities of the Supreme Controller, the personality of Godhead, who accepted incarnations fully equipped with all potency for the full manifestation and maintenance of the cosmic creation. Purport. Vidura was undoubtedly very eager to hear about Lord Krishna in particular, but he was overwhelmed because Lord Krishna had just passed away from the visible world. He therefore wanted to hear about him and his Purusha incarnations, which he manifests with full potencies for the creation and maintenance of the cosmic world. The activities of the Purusha incarnations are but an extension of the activities of the Lord. This hint was given by Vidura to Maitreya because Maitreya could not decide which part of the activities of Lord Krishna should be chanted.
Thank you, Nandaji. What do you got to say for that?
Just, you can relate to Maitreya's bewilderment. Oh, tell me about Krishna. Now that's a big topic. So where does he start? So then I appreciate him getting the little hint from Vidura there. Start with the Purusha. That narrows it down.
I also had a thought, kind of a connection. Srila Prabhupada mentioned that because Vidura was so overwhelmed after spending time with Uddhava, hearing that the Lord had left this world, when someone dear to us passes away, we learned earlier that Vidura had learned the art of subduing bereavement and grief by transcendental knowledge. But still, the heart's situation after a traumatic experience takes time to pacify. And he's not ready to hear from Maitreya more about that right now. So he's directing the conversation more towards the Purusha incarnations and that which Maitreya will pick up in the next lesson that we cover.
Oh, that's nice. Thank you. Okay, anyone else have something to add? This has been a very full.
Nice
we
to
always
see.
get really
Nice to
deep.
be with everyone again.
Yeah, it's really nice. Again, welcome to Sesha. And it's nice to see everybody still here. Faye and Manvantara, Elizabeth. Thank you, and Tisha. I can name all of you, but you know who you are. There you are. Okay, well, if anyone else has something, if we're finished with them, we'll finish and we'll see you next week. And dive deep into the Bhagavatam. It's really, you get a lot more out if you read the process, read the subject matter during the week, so that when we can discuss it, we can enter into a deeper understanding.
Jai Hare
Thank
Krishna,
you.
everyone. Thank you very much.
Vanchakalpatarubyascha Vaishnavebhyo Hare Krishna.